Coming at you live from all over Ohio. A Cleveland Browns podcast full of laughs, rants, fun, and stats. A place where all Browns fans' voices are welcome and heard. A show that aims to inform and entertain you. With your hosts, Jacob, Nick, and Ed. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Barking Browns Show.
What is up, everybody? I'm back. Welcome into episode 63 of the Barking Brown Show. I'm your host, Jacob at Roachism13, joined as always by my wonderful co-hosts, Mr. Ed in Columbus on this other side over somewhere. And below me, Mr. Nick Carnes at Carnesies817. Gentlemen, how are we?
Hi. Well, I'll tell you what.
There's no news. There's nothing to talk about today.
It's certainly the right day for you to come back, Jacob. And I just, you know what? I want to lead things off with, we've got a sexy new logo, courtesy of our great friend Sarah at Awkward Lefty on Twitter. She does fantastic work, and I just wanted to shout her out because it's beautiful, and we're happy to have it. So thank you to her.
So about that logo, I did not have enough time to update our intro video. I do believe I'll have enough time to have that updated so that logo is in next week's show. It's in the top right of the corner of the screen if you are watching the video version. The cool thing about this logo that you can't see right now because it's small is that our names are on that dog, that brown. It's a brown dog color, and it's the names are, all three of our names are on there, and I'm really pretty stoked about that. Ed, how are you doing, my friend?
Well, I think the Barking Browns woke up feeling dangerous with that new logo right there. Sarah did one heck of a job, so shout out to her as well. I know Nick gave those sentiments earlier, but yeah, what a great, beautiful. I like that. I'm the closest one to that beautiful logo right here. Makes me feel really good. But there's some news that came out of Cleveland today officially, and I'll let you jump into that one, Jacob.
Was there? There was news. That's why I'm back. That's why I'm from vacation.
I think it was by 4 p.m. too. So
it was by 4 p.m. and I sent a message to Connor, and he didn't even really say anything, but he was doing his victory lap, so that was really cool, guys. So the unending drama of surrounding Baker Mayfield's tenure in Cleveland has officially come to an end, as he's been traded to the Carolina Panthers for a conditional 5th-round draft pick that can become a 4th-round draft pick. Now, some specifics of that before we give our thoughts and overall views. Tonight's episode is called Thank You 6. I will get into that and the sentiments that are there, even though I think everybody on this channel agrees that upgrading and moving on was the right call. But we'll still be thankful for what the 4 years that he brought. And, you know, I'll never forget that night in Pittsburgh. And I was at his debut on Thursday Night Football against the Jets, and I'll never forget that either. So that'll never change. Those aspects will never ever change in my fandom and covering of the Cleveland Browns. So he goes to Carolina, which I think ultimately was always the most realistic. We got told a little bit late in the game that maybe Seattle really wasn't as interested as we thought, or is that we were told. Josina confirmed that they were interested. So they're Josina Anderson, who also told us last night, watch the timeline tomorrow. And we were all like, is she really saying Baker's getting traded tomorrow? And then he got traded, and I was like, don't doubt Josina Anderson, man. Like, because she just called her shot and she nailed it, like to a T. So he goes down to Carolina. The Browns will pay $10.5 million of that $18.9 cap hit, which then means, so the way it worked out, the Browns will pay 10.5 of his salary. The Panthers will pay, what was it, 5? They're paying like $5 million. Yep. And then Baker agreed, something that I was told he wasn't able to do, because I kept saying the Browns will only release him if he restructures his contract. Everybody's like, they can't do that. Well, he just did. Baker agreed to letting up $3 million of his contract. And so in turn, the Panthers only pay 5, the Browns pay 10, and then the 3 something goes away. And the Browns in the end get about a little over $8 million in cap space. Which is just compared to a situation where a lot of people said they were going to have to eat all 18, getting $8 million in cap space. I mean, that it wasn't a phenomenal deal. He didn't fleece the Panthers, he being Andrew Berry, but I think this was a pretty win-win, overall trade when you kind of add everything up in it. But so he goes down there. The Browns get $8 million. It's a 5th round pick that can become a 4th. to become a fourth. Now, keep in mind this draft pick is in 2024, so not this upcoming draft, but the draft after it. If he plays 70% of the Panthers' offensive snaps this year, that pick becomes a fourth. I have to believe, unless he gets hurt, and I mean really, really hurt, he's playing 70% of the snaps. Sam Darnold, stop. If you think Sam Darnold, listen, I wanted to upgrade and move on for Baker Mayfield, but if you think Sam Darnold's better than Baker Mayfield, I got a bridge I can say.
You know what? He had a great story about leading the NFL in rushing touchdowns for a little while last year.
Yeah. So, gentlemen, let's get your overall thoughts. We'll dive deep into it. So, overall thoughts about the actual deal. Go ahead, Ed.
Well, I'm happy that Baker's moving on. Now, I'll say this. I'll never have the affinity that maybe you guys do for Baker because I grew up. I'm a little bit older. So, my first thoughts are with Bernie Kosar and actually, making the multiple.
You remember some winning before him.
Winning.
Yeah, but you know what? I want to say this about Baker. When he was at the Combine, in 2018, and he was up there, and Baker has changed so much. He looked like when he was there, he was so young looking, and he's definitely grown up. I mean, he grew up in Cleveland. The first 4 years, and he became a man and things like that. When it comes to now, hopefully he can take those leadership skills somewhere else and have a successful career. I don't want to bang on Baker. I think the Browns needed to upgrade. I think that the landscape of the AFC with Mahomes and Josh Allen and with Herbert and all these gunslingers, I think you need to definitely upgrade the weaponry with the quarterback position. But I don't have any. I'll make jokes about Baker. It's entertainment. At the end of the day, it's entertainment. And I see a lot of people that are going after each other and viciously. And it's just like, look, we're all Browns fans. And I'll say one thing too. I hope Baker has success. I don't hope he has success week 1 against the Cleveland Browns. That's one thing.
I'm not concerned.
He won't.
So.
How's that logo, Nick? This logo looks really good.
This logo
looks really good.
I gotta say, today, and Ed, your perspective is definitely a little different. But today, I just said thank you for a final time for the best Browns season that I've ever seen, right? And so there's a segment of Browns fans. I'd say I don't know if you're like 30-ish and somewhere in there.
If you're under our age, yeah,
that's it. That's all. That's it. He's the pinnacle, right? And that doesn't mean he's a god or he's this elite guy that some people maybe make him out to be. Could he be? I maybe, I don't know. But I think that before, I've kind of held back on the jokes about Baker, especially because he was still here. But I just, I will always appreciate that time. Right. And winning and beating the Steelers like they did will always I'm going to get that picture framed one day of Ben just him. But anyway, you know what? I wish Baker well. But I just, I'm very thankful that I think this is this and obviously the Deshaun Watson decision are the two biggest obstacles between us and real football. Right. Yeah. So at least we stop arguing about Baker and the Browns are holding Baker hostage and whatever, all that nonsense. And we can start moving. So now it's literally just Deshaun. Right. So we can start really.
In terms of the questions. Yeah.
Yeah. And we should get a decision pretty soon, I think. So to me, football's closer. And that's a good thing to me.
We will be together in a little over 3 weeks. So we'll get into that sort of stuff. Let me go over here onto the comments. Our good friend Jeff, good and fired up here. I like this little hand. It didn't show up. Sorry. But he's got a really cool skeleton hand. And when I tried to put it on the screen, it didn't pop up. And I'm upset about that. Jeff loves the new logo. You know what I love about the logo? It has a G.
Yeah.
There's a G on barking. There's supposed to be a G.
I didn't make it completely clear that we wanted a G to Sarah. So originally she did it with the apostrophe, and I was like, no, we gotta have a G. I'm sorry, we gotta have one. And so we are barking. We barking.
He will commit an issue. Okay, Mitch needs to know: did he get it right this time? Ed, is that a new hat?
It's not. I usually wear this one because Jessica, our great friend from Oklahoma. So if you see me wear it once or twice, I have on the dog chug. So this may be a Barking Browns first. So good question.
Okay. Mitch is always trying to guess if it's a new hat or not, but Ed has too many.
I love our listeners. They're the most intelligent people out there. I tell you, watch the Barking Browns. You're a first-class American citizen, and we love you.
I still owe Ed a hat, so he will have a new hat sooner than later. I owe him one.
He can get that money back. See, I didn't know that. That makes sense. I see what you're saying. Instead of it being guaranteed, it's in incentives. Okay, I didn't realize that. That makes a lot of sense. Because, I mean, if there's one thing Baker Mayfield has always done, it's bet on himself. And I respect that.
That helps the Browns out, too, because if that's incentive-laden, then that means he's probably going to get more than 70% of the snaps, or he'll want to, which will help our pick then. So this is good for both parties. That's really smart.
I have a piece to this because I was talking to my uncle earlier, and he's mad at Andrew Berry because he feels like we didn't get near enough for Baker in return, and that we just gave him away, and they had this debacle. And personally, and I know you guys probably have strong feelings on it one way or another, but personally, I feel
but go ahead.
The Browns were in the midst of the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes, and I just don't think that allowed them to just say, okay, well, because obviously they showed you that Baker was something of a backup plan when Deshaun initially said no. So I think that's why he stayed, and maybe it did cost them a round worth of. I'm not sure. It's hard to speculate, but I just, you know what? To me, this is a move where both sides needed to turn the page, and I was never like. Initially, we were talking pie in the sky, like maybe the Browns could get a second-round pick back for Baker Mayfield and that type of thing. I kind of, as reality started to sink in, I just was like, that's not going to happen. And unless you know what, like if an injury happened, like if the Browns really want it, but then you run the risk of like you get closer to the trade deadline, and then you really got to move this dude. So to me, I just think like the return wasn't.
It wasn't phenomenal.
Yeah.
I won't act that way. Some people thought that that's what I was saying on Twitter today, but it's not what I meant.
You got a lot of cap space, and they're going to need it. So I'm really glad.
You have nearly $50 million in cap space. So people ask me, are you going to spend that? No, you're going to roll that over for all these extensions, especially now that Eddie Goldman signed today. That sucked.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he's got Atlanta, I want to say.
Okay.
1 year.
Okay.
1 year deal down there. So I'll talk about the actual, like, the why, what I think is the why. And then I'm going to do my little thing about the thank you that I have for Baker Mayfield. And I'm sorry if that upsets people, but I was one of the first people that said that we needed to move on and upgrade. But again, like I said earlier, I'm still thankful. And I hope he succeeds. You know what? I live in Athens. I'm from Athens. I love Joe Burrow when he plays. I'm proud of, the hometown guy. I always say against Cleveland, he needs to throw 6 touchdowns in a game-losing interception. That's what I always want. I want him to be successful in all the other games. And then when he plays the Browns, I want him to play good, but lose. I've always said that ultimately, and that's how I feel about Baker. I want him to succeed. I have no ill will against the guy.
Yeah.
Like, he was the guy that just made me, it just finally reignited the passion, that was starting to burn. Listen, I was in Afghanistan and I watched every single game of 0-16, like it was that light had gotten a little bit dim. And then I was there on that Thursday night when he came in and he just changed everything and he just electrified. If nothing else, we didn't necessarily win a ton in those 4 years, but it was entertaining. There was a lot of entertainment. Sometimes it wasn't positive entertainment, but it was at least in my lifetime the most entertaining 4 consecutive seasons I've ever seen in Cleveland.
We got hope.
Yeah.
Which we really, people forget we did not like coming off 1-31. And then the Browns right before Baker Mayfield's debut. I think,
and you kept Hugh. Remember that you went 1-31, and you were like, "Let's get a 3rd season of that."
I know.
Remember the context of how we felt as fans.
I know Ed will know, but when Baker Mayfield made his debut against the Jets, what was the Browns' record? Do you know?
1-1.
Oh yeah, 0-1 because they had tied.
Because they won, and then they were 1-1.
Yeah. So, but my point is, things were going to go very south in a hurry. Like we're coming off 1-31. We take this quarterback first overall, and
you tie Pittsburgh. Despite forcing 5 turnovers. don't forget that you tied Pittsburgh and you forced 5 turnovers.
So
Even that season, not just the 2 years before that, even that season. And then you had the situation with the missed field goal against New Orleans when you should have won that game. Yeah, that's the context that matters.
And we've got these fridges that are sitting there still chained 3 weeks into the season.
I just want to drink. I just want to drink.
Just wants to let the man and Tyrod Taylor is just stinking it up against the Jets. They're booing. It's Thursday night prime time.
I was there. We were booing.
I
was in the dog pound. We were booing.
Okay. And so
we were booing.
Baker didn't complain about the booing then, but anyway.
Hey.
But I'm just saying, Baker will always be that source of at least beginning the Browns' ascent to hey, we're a legitimate franchise in the NFL. Because for a while, I mean, you guys can tell me credit, it didn't really feel like it. There was the Three Stooges and this clown, and you bring this coach back after 0-16, so much that so maybe Baker wasn't the elite number 1 overall pick that we hoped he would be. And there's a lot of factors that you could argue one way or another. And I know Ed wants to get it.
I gotta say something.
When
do I go shave? Do I shave now and then shave about 20 minutes later and then shave again? How do I
maybe you could put a little Fu Manchu,
Yeah, how do I do this? I'm doing a tribute for 6 here. So I was thinking about if I step out, I'm going to shave.
I did a show with the Fu Manchu because I lost a bet.
I know.
We did that. You know what? Andrew noticed that. So you guys, I'm debuting it today for people. Get it up here. It's fresh. It's clean. We've got the 84, the Alex. That's right.
There's nothing wrong about that. It's all.
We got that. Yeah, that's right, baby. We got the 94 Alex Wright home jersey going on here.
Speaking of jerseys, I'm sorry, but wouldn't it be nice to use those 6 jerseys as Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah jerseys?
I've seen people tag JOK in that. Okay, so I wanted to, before I forget this, Nick, I want to address the way your uncle feels.
Yeah. Sorry.
Because I understand the frustration with what you got with Baker. Do I think okay, so that boils down to one thing. Do I think Baker is worth more than a conditional 5th, which I think, barring Baker's arm literally getting chopped off, will be a 4th because he's going to play 70% of the snaps. We saw it this year. The dude's going to go out there and grind. It may be good, it may be awful, but he's going to go out there and he's going to be even bad. Baker Mayfield, I think, is better than Sam Darnold. So I'm just that's where I'm at. That's just how I feel about that. But do I think he's better than a 4th round pick? Because that's the highest you can get, right? The Browns can get a 4th round pick. Yeah, sure. He is talent wise. There are some concerns in the locker room. And I'm not going to say he's this giant cancer because, to be honest with you, that would be being a bit hypocritical, because in other situations, I will tell you that I don't know what's actually going on, so I'm not going to be definitive. So I'm not going to be definitive here either. But there are people that have suggested, people in the know, that the off-the-field situation when things are going bad, because when you're winning, Baker is the greatest person to win with. Listen, me and my dad used to say if he was on another team, we would hate his guts. But his brash, cocky attitude when he's putting dubs on Sunday, oh my God.
Yeah.
But when you lose, he shaves 2 times in a day. When you win a game that against the Lions, you win a game and because it was a bad game, he doesn't speak to the media afterwards. So you've got situations like that. 3 examples. And let me give you this that people don't like to point out. He's now had falling outs with multiple different head coaches. Yeah. He has the falling out with Cliff Kingsbury in college. It works with Bob Stoops and Lincoln Riley because he was phenomenal. He has the falling out with Hugh Jackson. Which I don't.
That doesn't count.
We are not putting blame in there. We all had a falling out with Hugh Jackson.
Dude literally said the first overall pick doesn't get to have starter reps in camp.
He called the first overall pick into his office to tell him that he beat out Drew Stanton.
QB2.
Okay, Baker, you get a pass on that one, bro. You were right to have a falling out with Hugh Jackson. He has that falling out with Freddie Kitchens. Again, wasn't a great coach, but there was an issue there. And the rumor around the league is the relationship between him and Kevin Stefanski is the worst kept secret in league circles. So you're seeing this, that when they lose, people love to win with Baker Mayfield. They don't like to lose and struggle with Baker Mayfield. People talk about the chip on his shoulder. Well, my God, it was a boulder last year and it didn't work. And I get it. One of his arms was falling off. I get that. But my point is, his talent is above a 4th round pick.
Yeah.
Because of the situations around the league. So people say that you should have traded him before you got Deshaun Watson. You don't quit your job until you have a new one. Whatever. So anyway. Oh my God. I hope so, Andrew. Andrew in the Brick City, my good friend. He said, does he give Stefanski a ball in the season opener? God, I hope so. Like Demarius Randall did.
Here you go.
Jackson. I would listen, if Baker runs in a touchdown, runs over and gives like a ball to Kevin Stefanski, it'll be worth it. I'll enjoy the hell out of that moment. I would enjoy the hell out of that moment. It'd be funny.
If Baker balls against Carolina, he will make life living hell on hell for any Browns anything. Like,
as long as I don't care if he balls and loses though, because I'll just tell you I don't care. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you. I do the thing with the whenever I'll just do the Stephen A. Smith video where he goes, I'm gonna tell you right now, we don't care. It's just, but do I think his talent's better than a 4th round pick? Yeah, it is. It is. Because
is Robbie Anderson happy?
Oh God, we will get there. We will get there, Ed, because that is hilarious. Because I'm sure Baker's talked to Robbie already. Because Robbie already tried to cover his tracks and say he was just trying to support his dude Sam Darnold, which he's been with Darnold in New York and then down in Carolina. And I mean, Robbie Anderson's been a pretty productive NFL receiver, and his quarterback for most of his career has been Sam Darnold. So I mean, I can get the chemistry. Like Baker has that chemistry with Rashad Higgins, who he now reunites with in Carolina. And he had something going. Even when Baker was struggling last year, he really had something going with Harrison Bryant there in the middle of the year until Harrison Bryant gets that ankle injury against Baltimore, and then he just really wasn't the same after that. I think Baker's talent's higher than a 4th. I mean, he's better than – I think I will take Baker over Carson Wentz, and Carson Wentz got you more than a 4th.
2/3.
Yeah. But the issue there with Baker is – there is no contract security for the team because he's on a 1-year deal essentially, and that matters. Even like, I'm not saying it matters because of the amount of salary, because the Browns were always willing to eat some of it. I truly believe they weren't always willing to eat what they ate in the end, but I think they were always willing to eat it. So I don't think it was the contract size, it was the length. Like, if you got him for 2 years, even if you redo his entire contract after this year because he's a Pro Bowler, which is a good problem to have, to redo somebody's contract, but you want to redo someone's contract when he's still under contract, right? And so you're in a situation where he's only a 1-year deal. I think that plays a part in it. I do not think Watson's contract plays any part in it. But then I also think that there weren't a lot of teams in the end. By the time Baker was truly, truly available, most teams had either solved their quarterback, even if it was Atlanta going with Marcus Mariota, or they were waiting for the draft, waiting for Jimmy G, because that's part of it too. What's going to go on with Jimmy G? They didn't know. What's the cost going to be? All these things. But I think that a combination of the contract length, some off-the-field concerns, and you can tell me all you want that you think that is just people hating on Baker Mayfield, but too many people that do not have a, piece of the action, that don't have any emotional interest in the game, have said things about his locker room concerns. And the play last year where you're like, because we've talked about it on the show, there was a lot of things last year that you could not say were just on the injury. I think all of that coupled together, that it's probably accurate that he was a 4th round pick trade. Skill-wise, he's better than Carson Wentz, so you could probably have gotten a 2. Like, let's say Baker is on an extension, even a Jimmy G extension. Let's say that after 2020, he gets like a 3-year 25 per, right? 3 years, $75 million. So let's say he has 2 years and $50 million left on his deal. Even though he struggles, like there's some because you can restructure that. And like we just talked about him doing with now that he's in Carolina, he would bet on himself. So if he had struggled and he still had 2 years and you're like, listen, we'll give you the $50 million, but you're gonna have to earn more of it. We're gonna take away some of the guarantees. I believe Baker would have wholeheartedly been like, okay, because I think he believes in himself. He knows he can earn some of that back if he gives it away. That's why I think he gave some of it back to Carolina. So ultimately, I still think if you win a little bit earlier, you probably got more for Baker Mayfield. However, I understand why it was dealt with the way it was dealt with, why Andrew Berry did it the way he did it. And in the end, getting $8 million in cap space and a day 3 pick for a guy you had zero interest in keeping feels like at least a minor win for me. When you look at the fact that you were trying to convince someone, and I don't care what he was before the injury, you were saying, hey, look at this guy. You see this guy that was bottom 5 last year? You want to give me draft capital for it? Because I don't care what the reason is. I don't. NFL teams are going to be like, because what did we say? What did we say all offseason while we defended Baker Mayfield? He's just got to be consistent. Do it again. Do what you just did at the end of 2020, and you'll shut everybody up. Well, he didn't. Was it because of injury? Probably. Was it because of injuries to people around him? Yeah, that played a part. But you're trying to move a quarterback going to make almost nearly $20 million guaranteed that was awful last year. In the end, I applaud Andrew Berry for making a positive move, but they probably, if they'd moved just a little bit quicker, the problem is the guy they chose to upgrade with, it wasn't a quick process to get him. You know what I mean? Like if they'd got Russell Wilson, which happened like a week or two before Deshaun, right? Is that right? It was
before.
Yeah, but if they had done something like that and then traded him before Watson had even been like clear, quote unquote, cleared of criminal charges. I know he wasn't cleared of criminal charges. They just decided not to indict him. If they had done something like that, yeah, it would have been closer to a third or a second, I think. But once Watson goes and Baker was literally it. Baker was the only guy left on the market that was going to cost more than like $5 million when you sign like a guy like Marcus Mariota. I think the situation just went really quick on them. And I applaud Andrew Berry for not making a rash decision to just cut him or just give him away for peanuts on the dollar. I think it was still a positive trade.
Is there anything, so the way week 1 sets up, right? Assuming that Deshaun Watson doesn't play week 1, is there anything? So Baker Mayfield's been this dude that's either great or, Jacob, as you alluded
Side note,
to.
we've been told that Robbie Anderson has backed it off.
Yeah, he did. But Jacob, you were talking about there's no one more fun to win with. There's no one less fun to, as Ed alluded to, his shaving. But is there anything more Baker Mayfield than week 1? Either A, he gets to stick it to the Browns and they don't even have Deshaun Watson, so he can just do every victory lap. Or B, the Browns beat.
I think that's a bigger victory lap. Do you think, let me ask you this. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but you just made a really great point. Is it a bigger victory lap if he beats you without Deshaun because what he can say is, see, you replaced me with a guy that couldn't even play week 1.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I think that – go ahead.
I just, you know what? So to me, if the Browns beat Baker Mayfield with Jacoby Brissett, I mean, it's the jokes are gonna be
the Browns are gonna beat Baker Mayfield with Myles Garrett killing them. That's what's gonna happen.
It's gonna be doing.
Do you realize who was there? I just found this out. Credit to my friend Joel Cade, a fellow writer at Dog Pound Daily. Do you know who? And now, granted. Remember, the Panthers used a 6th pick on Ike Ekwonu. But do you know who the starting left tackle for the Panthers was last year?
No.
Levi.
Former first-round draft pick of your Cleveland Browns, Cam Irving.
Wow.
He was a turnstile when he was in Cleveland.
Yes,
he's actually had some good games here and there since leaving Cleveland. But so you're telling me that I've got Ike Ekwonu in his first career start at left tackle in the NFL, or Cam Irving going against Myles Garrett. I'm fine. I'm not concerned. I am not concerned.
I want an Ed victory dance, and maybe like you could have like a little trash can and put someone's face on it, and have a grand old time.
Do you think I would ever do those kind of juvenile tactics, Nick? Of course I'll do that. Of course I will.
I'm just saying. No, I think to answer your question, and Ed, I think would agree. It's a way bigger victory. If the Browns beat Baker Mayfield with Jacoby Brissett, I mean, and like the defense, like that's going to be cathartic, right? I mean, come on, man. You know what? I was thinking about Christmas Day again today for whatever reason, and you know what? Because dude threw 4 interceptions and ruined Christmas. I think that's like my least favorite Browns game of all time. Somehow, I don't even know how that's possible. But my point is, the defense had to deal with this like all year. Oh, they're going to be licking their chops. They are. I mean, let's be honest, right?
I can't stand for this Baker slander anymore. I have to say one thing about this whole Baker Mayfield thing to make him out to be better than what. Here's the thing about why I think there were limited teams, and it's not really Baker's fault because Baker is better than the average quarterback. I've been saying that. I mean, he's not worthy of the number 1 pick, but he's definitely above average. Here's the thing. A lot of NFL teams look at Baker Mayfield and thinking, why would I bring him in? I'm looking to tank for C.J. Stroud. I'm looking to tank for all these quarterbacks that are coming up in this upcoming draft. What's a few more games? So, I mean, that did not help Baker at all. And that's why I think there are only a few teams like Carolina and Seattle that, yes, they could tank and try to get those quarterbacks, but they don't believe in that, especially Seattle has a culture of winning. So I don't know why they're going to do it through Locke, but good luck with that one.
The thing that makes the fascinating thing about where Baker was going to end up when we talk about like not Carolina, but Seattle is I heard a lot of people saying like, do they want to upgrade? Do they want to tank? But like Pete Carroll's in his 70s. Like I cannot believe they want to tank and rebuild. Like that is just, and they're doing it with like, because they set themselves up where I truly thought that it was going to be Seattle. Now, around the draft, I thought it was going to be Carolina. I truly did. That's where I thought. And then it just started. Seattle made more sense to me because they get Noah Fant in that trade for Russell Wilson. They've got DK and they've got Tyler Lockett. That offensive line obviously has never been good, but, they've got a pretty good rushing attack. I'm like, that offense, like, it's got some weapons if they had a quarterback not named Drew Lock or Geno Smith. So, that's fascinating to me that they end up electing to go with a rebuild because I'm sorry if you're rolling out Geno Smith because that's the best part was not when they started to OTAs, they were like, yeah, Geno Smith has a step up on Drew Lock. And I'm like, I didn't even know Geno Smith was still into the league until he stepped onto the field last year. So
Carolina gave up so many. Carolina already they drafted Matt Corral, right? They traded up to get Matt Corral.
Yeah, don't forget that.
They gave up I don't remember specifically, but I know they gave up significant assets to get Darnold.
It was like a 2 and a 4.
That's a high price, right? So you're Carolina and you're looking at that and you're like, are we really going to give up more picks for another quarter? I don't. You know what? There's a piece to this, and where people are talking about it, where Carolina loses out on the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes, and they end up with Baker Mayfield. Like, you think about what would have happened if the Browns miss out on Deshaun Watson and what they would be. I have no idea what they'd be doing right now.
It's got to be Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah,
like, if that's where you were, it would have to be Jimmy Garoppolo.
Just like the barking Browns got a G on our logo, the Browns would be going with Jimmy.
Did I tell you?
And then we got the Guardians, so there's something G's in Cleveland.
Yeah. Did I tell you one of the biggest disappointments when the Browns, when it was clear that the Browns would, because I thought Jimmy Garoppolo all along was kind of the guy, and you guys know that I said this on this show that I thought if it wasn't Baker Mayfield, it would be Jimmy Garoppolo because I just didn't think Watson was going to go anywhere, to be honest with you guys. But he started doing those Subway commercials, and I was like, hey, that's going to be the Browns' next quarterback. I told my wife that, and she's like, oh, okay. She's like, and then I told her that it wasn't going to be that they got Watson, and her biggest disappointment was she didn't get to watch Jimmy Garoppolo on the sidelines on Sundays.
Hey now.
I was like, wait a minute. No. But yeah, no, man. Some good questions over here, real quick. Let's get back over here. Okay. So interesting, Jeff puts in here, Carolina is projected to be the 25th O-line in rankings according to Pro Football Focus.
Good luck.
I like those numbers. Over under Christian McCaffrey playing 5 games.
Under.
I gotta stop drafting him in fantasy. I have.
I'm going to say over, but I'm going to say like 6 or 7. I think he plays at least 6. I think he plays less than 10. Up to 10. He plays up to 10. He's somewhere between 6 and 10.
Is Christian McCaffrey tall?
I don't know.
He might need to be to catch screen passes.
Okay. All right. That was
wow.
unfair. That was unfair. Jess says, G's up, you know the rest. I'm just so happy we have a G.
He's 5'11", Christian McCaffrey, so he's the same size.
Oh no. Well,
He's not the same size.
You know what? As this process has played out, I've realized that I'm harboring a lot of anger for Mr. Mayfield for last season, and
it's hard. This is what I'll say about Baker, like in closing the door, and that's why I knew this episode would just be purely about Baker, and of course it's going to be. That's where we are in the middle of July, beginning of July, but like it's hard to remember some of the things that we really loved about Baker Mayfield because the last memories are that Monday night in Pittsburgh and Christmas Day. Like that is
Jacob, no, the memories are the progressive commercials being played over and over over again after interceptions. That's what I'll never forget.
This is what I think Baker Mayfield is. Jake Burns says this all the time, and I think this is spot on. He's an average quarterback who has spikes above and below. He can have an elite streak. He can have an elite game. Listen, here's the interesting thing about Baker compared to Sam Darnold when you talk about why Carolina absolutely made the right call. And that is Sam Darnold's not going to win. You're not going to win a game because of Sam Darnold. Not very often. You can win a game because of Baker Mayfield. However, you can lose a game because of Baker Mayfield. But he at least gives you the possibility and the opportunity to win a game based on good quarterback play.
Jacob, can you win in the final 2 minutes of a game with Baker Mayfield?
Okay, but like he can though. I mean, like remember that game against the Bengals where he doesn't have an incompletion other than spiking the football. They were not going to lose that game unless they run out of time.
That in the Buffalo game. These elite quarterbacks like Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, they have 6 or 7 games a year where they're coming back in the final 2 minutes. And that's what elite quarterback play is.
Like, it's not like
I understand that's why I said spikes above.
Right. No, I agree. I agree with that.
Spikes of elite play.
Did Josh Allen go to Jacksonville, or I don't know where the game was, and lose 9-6 in a stinker? Yeah. But I bet you if you go back,
Didn't he get sacked a lot by Josh Allen in that game?
I believe he did, and
that was a really funny game.
Like Aaron Rodgers was terrible against New Orleans week 1, and I'm sure there's a bunch of Joe Burrow threw 3 interceptions against the Packers, right? And you look at these quarterbacks, and the Chargers got absolutely obliterated by the Ravens last year. Right, so it's like these elite quarterbacks, yeah, they have stinkers. They're not going to be good week in and week out. It's just with Baker last year, it was just so often. It just it's like, yeah, you're entitled to have bad games, and I don't know. I know he was hurt. It's a complicated situation, and if I'm being truthful, I am very happy I don't have to debate and look for all these signs of hope. I just want to know verifiably that the quarterback is good. That's all I want to know. That's it. I just need to know.
Nick, when hasn't it been complicated in Cleveland with the quarterback? Look at Johnny Manziel. I mean, when you guys in Cleveland, I say you guys, even though I'm a Clevelander or was born there, it's just, I swear to God, that position, that franchise since 1999, even with the Tim Couch, Kelly Holcomb thing, has always been a hotbed for quarterback controversy. Always.
Like, what's it like to see Baker throw an interception and then immediately after a progressive commercial comes out?
That's what I was going to say. Dude, that is the worst thing. Like, you're controlling whoever at the network kept making sure that those plays happened after an interception. I kind of want to say bravo, but that hurt.
I've never wanted to throw a remote through my TV more in my entire life.
You would probably be more accurate. You'd have to get a new TV. You'd actually hit it.
Okay.
Sorry. I thought we were supposed to miss him, guys. I'm gonna miss this with him.
Listen, I've never felt more electricity in my life other than that Thursday night football when he stepped in and won the first game in a lot of days. a lot of days. So in the end, this episode was called Thank You Six for that reason.
Yeah.
I wanted to move on and upgrade because I can't deal with the inconsistency issues. People will say, well, he was elite in 2020. He had an elite stretch in 2020. But I also want to remind you that go look at his fourth quarter numbers and go look at his pressure situation numbers, and they have never been good. They've never been good. So there were always issues. Even in 2020, there was issues, but his spikes above, they masked them because he had more spikes on the elite side of the chart than the below average side of the chart. And then he still had some spikes this year, and that was the problem. The problem with Baker's not talent, it's consistency. And you couldn't be consistent. I get it, the injury. I know. More than anything, I wish he wouldn't have got hurt because we would have actually got a better answer, in my opinion. I think there would have been less infighting, is what I think. I think there would have been a less fighting amongst fans this offseason if he hadn't gotten
you think Brown's Twitter. I love Brown's Twitter, and and I always say I love drama and stuff like that, but it'd always be fighting. It'd be something else. It'd be something else.
Well, our good friend Haley, that blonde in Nashville on Twitter, said something this afternoon to the effects of like, can we be civil and stop fighting each other or something? And I was just like, as if saying, hey, Baker's gone, so can we stop fighting about it? And I was like, that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
He's the quarterback in week 1. I mean, this stuff is not going away.
What did we talk about on this show? I said, guys, if he goes to Carolina,
I know
it's going to be worse. It's going to objectively be worse from the time he gets traded until we play. I'm going to tell you that week, when we are at 7 days, when it is the week of National Football League kickoff, I probably am just going to mute the words Baker Mayfield.
Is the week 1, all the storylines that come into week 1, is Baker Mayfield versus the Browns a top NFL story? Probably, right?
Yeah, it's top. It's in the top.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's number 1, but yeah, it's going to be one of the top storylines. Yeah.
So, that's the point. It's like it's not just going to be big in Cleveland, Carolina. It's going to be big across the NFL. People are going to be watching that game wondering.
Nick, if Watson gets 0 games, I'm not saying he's getting 0 games, but Watson versus Baker. I know everybody wants to do the Jacoby Brissett because they can say that Baker, beat up what he would have played if I get that. But a Watson versus Baker week, that's what if the NFL. I mean, this is said the NFL might not want that, but CBS definitely wants it. Whoever's carrying that game, that's what they want.
Yeah. And I think it is CBS has that game. CBS would definitely want that game.
About 4:01, about 4:01 p.m. that day, I will send. That's why they traded for Watson. Send tweet, and then that'll just be the end of that.
Nick, your violence is sexy, by the way. Your violence.
We've done 45 minutes of all the Baker Mayfield banter, the thoughts, the thank yous, the why they moved on, all that stuff. So we've got 50, as we get towards the back end of this show, let's kind of hit on some of the other things. I'm going to write a story this evening for Dog Pound Daily that should come out sometime tomorrow about a trade, a proposed trade that Bleacher Report put out for the Browns. And I want your guys' thoughts on it. I'm not going to share mine because I'm going to write on this and it'll come out tomorrow. So I'll ask you guys and I'll bring it up so that I know where it is. So this is from Christopher Knox at Bleacher Report Gridiron. He says, 4 trade ideas that would transform the league. And one of them dealt with the Cleveland Browns. Now, what's actually funny, because now I realize that Baker Mayfield was in that trade, so I can no longer write about it. Anyway, so I'll tell you my thoughts on it too. So the question was that the Browns trade to Seattle. They trade Baker Mayfield, a second and a third round pick for DK Metcalf. So had they moved from Baker Mayfield until today, when they did this hypothetical trade of Baker in the first and the second and the third round pick, would you have been interested in that trade and why?
Yes, because I think a lot of people have said that Amari Cooper may be here short term, and that's kind of the reality of the situation. I'm not positive if that's true or not, but if the Browns are from week one, the Browns are definitely going to be saying like a Super Bowl is our goal. So, and I think it's important to adopt that line of thinking very similarly to when we did it with LeBron James returning to the Cavs, right? Like everyone was like, well, we want to keep Andrew Wiggins. We want to keep Andrew Wiggins. No, you need to trade for Kevin Love. You need to do that right now, right? Because that's the goal. The goal is to win right now, not in the future. So if there's a way to get a receiver like DK Metcalf, I mean, that would just, I'm in. Sign me up.
Okay, Ed?
Deshaun Watson and DK Metcalf would tear up the league. So I'm all for it, and here's why. I mean, you got to think. Okay, so you're giving a Baker Mayfield. Who cares? That's fine. Okay, but the second and the third that you're getting given up. Okay, so maybe one of those seconds or thirds that you're giving up, you would have drafted a wide receiver. So really, you're only giving up one draft pick. That's how I look at it. And you're getting an elite talent such as DK Metcalf who can stretch the field with Deshaun Watson playing quarterback. A red zone nightmare for any teams in the AFC North. Yeah, any day of the week.
So the answer is no. And the reason the answer is no is because this is not Madden. And this is not how this works. You do not have a first-round draft pick until 2025. And you want to go into – don't forget, the first is not the only thing you're missing next year. Yeah, you're going to get an extra third because of the Kwesi hire, potentially more if Glenn Cook gets hired. But you're talking about giving up a 2 and a 3 when you already don't have your 1, I believe they don't have their 4 next year, and getting a – player that is going to want a massive contract extension after this year. How are you going to balance out that contract without draft picks?
There's no salary cap. Work? It's a lie. It's a lie.
Sure.
We're going to roll over.
Look at some of these cap numbers. Yeah, we're going to roll over 50 and look at what happens to Watson's cap numbers in the next 3 or 4 years. There is the way you balance out giant contract extensions are with cheap rookie contracts. That's why I think the Browns are going to be okay with all the contracts they have signed with David Njoku. Listen, let me talk about some of these people you just signed. Wyatt Teller got a massive extension. Joe Bitonio got a massive extension. David Njoku got this massive extension. Myles Garrett has a massive extension. Denzel Ward has a massive extension. Okay, Deshaun Watson's money is going to start kicking in as a massive contract. If you're going to balance it out, good teams balance that out with great draft picks in the middle rounds. Because those first-round guys, their numbers are fine, but they're fifth-year option, especially.
But that's why they drafted David Bell and the receivers like that. So
sure, yes. And that's what you've got in the middle of the pack. But you need those middle-of-the-pack guys. You need to draft one. That's the makings of a good GM. If Andrew Berry is going to create a sustained success in Cleveland, like I believe he is trying to do, it's rounds 2 through 5. If I'm not picking but one pick potentially as the extra third that you'll get with this trade, I love DK, but what's his number? Did you see what Christian Kirk got? Did you see what he got? Did you see the contract that Hollywood Brown got? What the heck do you think DK Metcalf's going to get? There's he's a phenomenal talent, but you already have a $20 million receiver. So you're going to give him what? He's going to want at least 25, 26.
Yeah.
You cannot make all of that work. Stop believing that the salary cap isn't real. It's freaking real, but teams are able to manipulate it.
Twitter says it wasn't, so I believe Twitter.
That's true. But they manipulate it because of the middle picks. So I'm talking about contracts, and literally you're going to have like no premium picks next year. And right now, Andrew Berry is restocking on those middle picks. A 2 and a 3 when you already don't have your 1 and you already have all of these 5 massive contracts that are about to start kicking in. Don't forget Nick Chubb. I forgot him.
Yeah.
And you want to sign Kareem Hunt. Everybody told me they want to sign Kareem Hunt. And
let's go. Let's go.
Because it's not Madden. It just practically speaking, that trade for 2022, especially if Watson plays a majority of the season, phenomenal trade for 2022. Setting yourself up for failure in the future when all of those bills will come due. And
Nick Jacobs being no fun right now. Jacob.
I've got a 3-point argument. Here's my points. Number 1.
Don't you dare.
I believe DK Metcalf puts the Browns over the top this year. I believe he's that kind of talent. I believe that's one of the weakest position groups that the Browns have. There is potential, but based on current production, that's one of the weakest views. That's number one. So based on that, same thing with Kevin Love. Kevin Love helped put the Cavs over the top. I think DK Metcalf would. Number two.
There's no salary cap in basketball. It's not the same thing.
I understand that, but I'm just well, there is a salary cap. But
you can do whatever you want as long as your owner's got deep pockets, and Gilbert has deep pockets.
Thanks, Dan Gilbert.
Yeah, he doesn't give a shit. Dude will play whatever he has to if he thinks he's gonna win. Yeah, I'll always give Gilbert that. Like he'll fit the bill.
Yeah. Speaking of number two, Amari Cooper, who many have thought will only be here for 1 year. If he's not here next year, suddenly your high-priced wide receiver is
there's still guaranteed money unless you get someone to take that contract. There's still guaranteed money even if he's not here.
I understand that part, but if you're operating under the premise to begin with that Amari might just be a 1-year player, that there's an argument to be had that you can move around how you're allocating your resources to afford a dude like DK. I'm no salary cap expert, but I'm just saying that makes sense in my mind, right? If Amari's taking up the money right now, and he's not going to be here next year, yes, you're going to have to, obviously you're going to be paying down the road. And finally, number three, the Rams have never cared about any picks in their life since they've gotten this new regime. And
did they win the Super Bowl last year, Nick?
It seems to be going pretty well for them. So F them picks, give me DK Metcalf. That's it. That's all. That's my 3-point plan to get DK Metcalf.
That's a sexy plan. I
think it's a pretty good plan. I mean, I don't know.
You're telling me one time in the NFL somebody has effed them picks and won. One. Yeah, how many Super Bowls, Nick? How many Super Bowls have
only one? It's worked. Only one, but they did have Jared Goff.
Okay, but I'm not the year they won it.
Yeah, but
they won it last year, though, right?
Yeah, they did win it last
year. That's
year.
not what they do this year.
Right. Can they sustain it? Because that's not my point. I told you that in 2022, it would make the Browns phenomenal. It's not making them phenomenal for the
Rams going to be good this year? Are the Rams going to be good this year?
Yeah, they'll be
guarantees that you're going to hit on the second and third round pick.
Did you?
I'm just saying.
Why don't you tell me about the draft Andrew Berry had last year?
Okay, but is the third round pick going to be Jordan Elliott? Is the third round pick going to be Anthony?
Oh, hold on. Second round pick. We're talking second round pick.
I'm working my way up.
Well, you're okay with passing up with a guy like JOK so that you can get DK Metcalf and screw yourself for the next 5 years.
I understand, but I just look at the Browns team as one that's not having very many holes to begin with, and I know that you're not going to be able to afford everyone, and you have to patch the holes. But I just think how they're positioned right now. We in Cleveland, we have been basing our future on these picks for my entire life, and they very rarely pan out. And I know Andrew Berry is a different breed entirely. I have a lot of faith in him, but I'm just saying DK Metcalf is proven.
When you traded for Deshaun Watson, people told you that you were okay with how many games he may miss this year because it's a long-term play. Mm-hmm. So why would you follow up a massive long-term play for a short-term play? That is not what Andrew Berry has shown any propensity to do. That the only player that he has shown is willing to give up significant capital for is a franchise quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me. Now it's Cooper Kupp. I get that. But tell me the last time a wide receiver was the reason a Super Bowl was won. It's the quarterback.
Tyreek Hill.
Okay, but he had the best quarterback in football.
I agree. But if he doesn't make that catch, they don't win that game.
What's he going to do with Tua this year? Is Tyreek Hill going to be the reason they win a Super Bowl? You're trying to convince me that a wide receiver puts you over the top and it's the reason to sacrifice potential sustained success. I think DK Metcalf is phenomenal, guys. He's a phenomenal player. You have 6 massive extensions that are about to kick in next year, and you want to add a 7th?
Jacob, we've had success.
And you're not going to be able to balance it out because you're not going to have any picks until day 3. Practically day 3, you're going to have comp pick at the end of round 3. That's going to be the first time you're going to pick. And what happens if somebody's a bust? Somebody's a bust from this draft. What if you need a left tackle because Jed doesn't work out? I think Jed's phenomenal. It'll be fine. But what are you going to do? How are you going to balance out these contracts? You are constantly listen. We said they're not going to draft 9 players. They weren't going to draft all of these players, and then they did. Why did they draft all these players? To balance out all these contracts.
Yeah.
Everything they have done has shown you that they would not do a deal like this because it does not breed long-term sustainability. Listen, maybe the Rams end up proving it's sustainable, but nobody has ever sustained it. And only one time has a team gone for broke in the F them picks and actually won it. It's happened once.
I want to amend Nick's plan and add another point, make it a 4-point plan. Cleveland Browns have had success with a player with the last name Metcalf. So I think DK Metcalf, if he played for the Browns, with that last name alone, would be a superstar. And I'm going to stick by that story.
I think every NFL team, every single one,
solid logic,
to be great needs at least one elite wide receiver. And if the idea is that Amari Cooper will not be here long term, I could see why Andrew Berry would say we can get this elite wide receiver for a second and third. He can be our long-term answer, because I understand that you need to replace guys. But again, none of these picks are guarantees. The Browns must have, I don't know if it's going to be Amari. I don't know if it'll be David Bell. I don't know who it'll be. DPJ, hopefully. But no matter who it is, you have to have an elite wide receiver. One.
So if you cut Amari Cooper next year, pre-June 1, it's a $15 million dead cap.
Okay. I'm not saying you have to cut him pre-June 1.
Nick, you know the pulse of Cleveland, right? Now, my parents are 73 years old, and your parents are getting older, and everybody's getting older in Cleveland. Nobody cares about this sustained success. We won a Super Bowl. Go all in. We'll worry about it later. We need to get to the Super Bowl.
You can't guarantee a Super Bowl with a wide receiver trade.
You also can't guarantee that these draft picks are going to plug holes.
Okay,
there's no guarantee.
You trade for DK Metcalf. Give it all up, and Watson's suspended for the season.
Give up a second and a third. You're giving up only one pick. Say you draft a receiver with a second or third. You're only giving up one draft pick.
Okay. Listen, you give that up. You're telling me give it up for 2022. Yeah. You give that up, and Watson is suspended for the season. Then what?
Zero games.
I don't. It doesn't matter. I'm not asking that. Then what?
Then you are in a hole.
We keep saying this roster's so loaded. It's so loaded. It's so loaded. It's so loaded. Now it's not loaded. Now we got all these holes to fill. Which is it?
I didn't say you had holes to fill. I said sustained success.
I know. I want to get to the Super Bowl. When are you guys ever going to go all in? All these other teams go all in and they get there. We'll get there.
Who other than the Rams
last
year? Who other than the Rams last year? Who traded all their picks, said F them picks, and signed all these massive deals, and then had sustained success and made it to the Super Bowl? Who?
I don't need sustained. I just need one. Give me there. Give me there.
Who other than one example in over 50 Super Bowls?
But we weren't arguing sustained success. We were arguing go in the Super Bowl now.
Okay. Yeah. And I'm telling you that you can't guarantee that because it's only happened once.
I'm going to try. I know what people say. It's like the Indians back in the day. They didn't trade for Pedro Martinez and they had Jarrett Wright. And you know what? They should have made that trade. It's like Cleveland always has that chance to go over the hump, and they always pull back. Like, no, we got to go for long-term sustainability. Go for the damn ring.
I agree.
Go for it. And then don't get it. And then what? Then you suck.
The roster is not in perils where if they go for it, oh my gosh, we have to tear it all down. It's not that bad.
Because they gave up a second and a third.
No. If you give it up and you get in cap hell 3 years from now and didn't win, what are you going to do?
Andrew Berry will not get us in cap hell.
Well, you tried to go all in, so we'll accept 4 and 12.
If you gave up those picks and you went and got DK Metcalf and you didn't get there, at least you finally had an elite quarterback and you tried. You tried to do everything you could.
If you do that and you don't get it.
Stop worrying about the don't.
I can't. I'm not worried. I need. Give me everything I can have.
It's not Madden. That's not how you run a team.
Every year is so valuable in the NFL. Windows open and close in an instant. And I understand you want to keep the window open, but just like there's no guarantee of a Super Bowl, there's no guarantee of those picks being sustained.
You're only giving up one pick basically for DK Metcalf. Only one pick.
You're giving 2 premium picks and you're not picking until day 3.
But you would draft if you need to get a wide receiver because Amari Cooper leaves, you're probably going to draft one of those.
If you have a hole, how are you going to fix a hole when you have no cap and no capital until day 3? How?
Everybody always goes on about this no cap, no cap, no cap. I watch New Orleans sign every player their heart desires every year. It's Philadelphia does the same thing.
When was the last time New Orleans was in a Super Bowl?
2008.
When was Philly?
They won it in what,
2017?
Yeah, they won a Super Bowl.
Okay.
I want to win it.
I want to win.
Two examples in over 50 Super Bowls. Do you know what those odds are? I don't like them.
You keep saying the roster's loaded. It's loaded. Let's go.
I agree.
Let's go.
I agree. I don't know. I think it's
don't
good.
Don't waste Nick Chubb. Don't waste Myles Garrett. Don't waste these players' career because you're afraid of sustainability. Yeah.
This roster will only be young like this once. I mean, if we're being honest, if we're being completely honest, this very well could be the last year Nick Chubb is on the team, Kareem Hunt is on the team, Amari Cooper is on the team. You could go like right now the secondary is set and young. But like to Ed's point, is like, yes, Myles Garrett's going to keep getting better. And Jadeveon Clowney, this is probably the last year Jadeveon Clowney's on the team as well. Jack Conklin could be in his last year as a Browns tackle very easily. I just think that the more I've watched the NFL and the more I've looked at everything, I have just learned the importance of right now, because these guys can get hurt. They can be gone. They can, so many things can happen. So if I can improve my odds for now, that's where I'm at. And I think it's good that we can have this discussion. It's not like, yes, we're animated and we're yelling, but nobody's insulting anyone. It's like, I don't know.
Jacob, I'm taking this fight to Twitter and you better respond.
I can't wait. It's going to be great. It's going to be great because
listen, it's not a knock on DK Metcalf, but if you listen, this is still one of the youngest rosters in football. So acting like if you don't attack this year, then it's a waste. It's just not true. Like, listen, I get it. You make great points, but that's what you do in Madden. Like I get it. Listen, the Rams proved it works. Okay, but I look at numbers, and that's what these Harvard and analytical guys are going to do, and it's like it worked once. Now everybody's going to tell me, well, the most recent time it worked. Well, when did it work before then? Like Foles goes on this.
Bring back OBJ.
Yeah. Foles goes on this unlikely run to win in 17. Well, it was 18, but it was the 17th season. You know what I mean? And other than that, it's elite quarterback play that wins championships. It's not an elite receiver. Like, don't get me wrong. You kind of need an elite receiver in the NFL now because there's a ton of elite corners. Like, that's true. That's true. But if you got a top 8 quarterback, which is what you've got, if Watson's there, I'm much happier balancing this out and making it sustained, because this roster with Watson can win a Super Bowl. I don't need.
We agree on that. I think we all agree on that.
Yeah, we agree.
I don't need him. Now, don't get me wrong. If they did it, I wouldn't be angry, but I'm saying no because I'm looking at the big picture, which is what the Browns are going to do. I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm saying I disagree, but you have very valid points.
I want a shiny new toy.
We all do that.
You can make the argument, the NFL as a whole, many teams right now are playing Madden. The Raiders just traded for Devontae Adams. The Dolphins just traded for Tyreek Hill. The Broncos just traded for Russell Wilson. The Browns
how many of those teams just signed 6 massive extensions?
I know.
That's what it is. It's not just the draft capital. It's the capital and the contract that he's going to get. Like, if he was already on a contract that was like $15-18 million a year, whatever, okay. But I'm realizing that next year he's probably carrying a 20+ cap hit. And listen, Andrew Berry's a wizard. He can work with those sort of things. But at a certain point, it will run out. And here's the thing. You say that, you say what you want to say about New Orleans. Look at who they lost. They just lost a franchise left tackle because of the cap situation. Teron Armstead's gone. Yeah. So people want to act like they're not losing things. They've lost key pieces each year. They don't lose everyone, but they're losing pieces. It's happening. The Pittsburgh Steelers put themselves in a situation where they kind of had no cap last year because they kicked the can down the road with Ben. And then Kevin Colbert is just an amazing GM before he retires, and he figures it out. Yes. And whatever's going on down there, the voodoo magic in New Orleans, but they're losing significant role players. I think New Orleans is still a good team. They're still a good team. But the fact of the matter is, if you put it like this, eventually it's going to come due. In the odds of winning it this year because of that move, I don't like them enough to take that risk.
I know that New Orleans, I just want to finish on this final thing. I know New Orleans only got one Super Bowl out of their Drew Brees era. I understand that. But you could argue that the Saints hold two of the most heartbreaking playoff losses.
That's fair.
In my lifetime.
That is fair.
So, I mean, if Diggs,
they really now the Minneapolis Miracle, I'll give that to him because that was like just a bad play. But that Rams, that was not on them. That was stolen from them.
I mean, the NFL made a whole rule that they used for a year, but I mean, they made a whole rule.
That usually happens.
Is there a worse rule than that? When they made that rule, they're like, we're going to do this, and it's going to make the game better. And that was the worst year ever. That law, that rule, the calling pass interference was awful.
I think this has been one hell of a show, and we're on 106, ironically.
I'm fired up. Before the show, I was a little bit, lethargic, and Nick's like, wait till the show fires up, you'll get juiced up. And I'm fired up. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Jacob.
MC Lawrence says he'd kill for just one Super Bowl, and I could not.
Thank you.
It's the same reason when people wanted to trade Baker after 2020 for Aaron Rodgers. You can't guarantee me a Super Bowl, and because you can't guarantee it, I've got to look at the whole picture, and you can't guarantee it because guess how many Aaron Rodgers has?
I know.
More than we do.
Yeah, but when you're talking about selling it all for him at almost 40, you can't guarantee he brings that.
Very emotional today, Jacob. An emotional thing happened in Cleveland.
It's an emotional show.
My logic's out the window, and I just want to win now.
Like, you are right. If Jacob, if you said to me, Andrew Berry can have a second and a third round pick, do you trust him to hit on those picks? I would say yes.
Yeah.
I would say yes. So to your point, I do believe that those picks will help the Browns be sustainable. Maybe it's being starved for a Super Bowl. Maybe it's never having an elite quarterback until now. At this point, I just think about this year and my eyes get big.
Did you see DK Metcalf chase down that Cardinals? I mean,
that's still one of my favorite plays of all time.
Love it. Just a quick shout out. My great friend Tato won last month's Zabo Apparel giveaway for all of our great Patreon members. And I know we got some Zabo Apparel on here. I just want to say thank you to all of our Patreon members. We did get a new logo today, and I see you dancing. We did get a new logo today. And so we are planning, as we roll that out, we're going to do some fun giveaways, especially for the Patreon members, because you guys have been here supporting us. So anybody who's supporting us, thank you. Just a quick. Oh no, Jeff, we're gonna make sure you are just fine, friend. Because I see you said that you were. We're gonna make sure you're just fine. We'll take anybody who has already purchased merchandise. Thank you. You're amazing.
Yes, it is getting switched to the new stuff.
Yeah, and we will make sure that you get your stuff. And speaking of that, I think we have a couple other messages from show sponsors. Jacob, I know Built Bar has been your baby. If you want to talk to us.
Yeah, guys, Built Bar. They're just so seriously. We got to tell you about the friends over at Built Bar. That is absolutely the best protein bars on the market. They're great for, if you're trying to stick to a healthier eating style. I eat 1 to 3 a day. Now, I do eat 1 a day, though. I don't eat 3. Sometimes I do eat 2. Like, seriously, like, what's the issue with protein bars, right? Like, when you're like, they're chalky, they're hard, they're kind of hard to eat, and it's just, this is like eating a 3 Musketeers bar that is good for you. God. And my favorite thing is the Built Bar Puffs. See, they're a chocolate bar. It's actually chocolate-covered marshmallows. And that is fun. They just released a new flavor that is raspberry lemonade. Have not got my hands on that one yet, but I do have the puffs, and they are the coconut brownie chunk. And so it's the marshmallow, right, with some coconut, and then chunks of brownie, and then coated in dark chocolate.
That's a touchdown, Jacob. That's a
Go over
touchdown.
to built.com, BUILT.com. Use the promo code BARKING, all caps, BARKING, for 10% off the best protein bars on the market right now, built.com.
With a G. No barking. We are barking.
Yeah, there's a G.
Gurge.
I got to choose it. I got to choose that G.
I think wow, this is, you know what, this is probably my favorite episode. So to anyone who listened to this, I love when we can debate about this stuff, because that's what I was talking about, is we finally get to start talking about real football. No more Baker, right? All that stuff. I wish him well. I know I took some snipes at him, but I do wish him well, and I do appreciate the time he was here. But he's on the other side now, so it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
But so that's what it's all about. And so I really appreciate it. I don't know. This was a great show. Do we have anything else for all the final?
No, I'm yelled out.
I got it all out. I feel good. Go
I'm
Browns.
I'm going to hop on Panthers on Tap this evening.
Ooh,
Panthers podcast coming out to talk Baker Mayfield, so you can check that out.
busy guy. Look at you. Look at you go.
Yeah, I had an article to write, and then I remembered that the Browns traded Baker Mayfield, so I can't talk about that trade. And then I yelled at you guys about it for like 20 minutes. So like, what I was going to do tonight is gone. So like,
I'm glad, man. I don't know. That's what it's all about. And so, I think that speaks to how passionate we all are about this team and how much we want them to have success. So I'm glad we could do it. Thank you to everybody for listening. This has been the Thank You 6, I believe, episode 63 of the Barking Browns show. I'm Nick. He's Jacob up there. And there's Ed. Go Browns.
Go Browns!
Browns, baby.